As I say, delighted with the feedback from this morning's session, delighted with the speaking and the volume of questions coming up, even if it is a little bit difficult to cope with at times. I'd like to move on now to our next session and introduce to Eleanor Meade, who's the Operations Manager at the Meade Potato Company. I'm just interested to read it, that this too is an organisation that goes back to an original family farm. So very much continuing the theme of human capital today and meeting the challenges of the new and interesting markets that we're dealing with. Recently the Meade Potato Company has won the Pac-Man Award from Repack, and Eleanor is going to be chatting to us about food waste management. So I'd just like to ask you to welcome Eleanor to the stage. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I just want to say firstly, thanks very much for inviting me to speak here today. I suppose it's a great opportunity for us to share the Meade Potato Company sustainability story. It is, I suppose, a smaller scale than previous speakers, but it is nonetheless one that we're very proud of. And we have some challenges along the way, but I do think that, I suppose, going green has been really, really good for us as a company. So I'll take you through some of the slides. A quick introduction to the company, our history, core values. I suppose Meade Potato is in the name, but we do so much more. So when I introduce the divisions, you'll see there's fruit, vegetables, salads and organics. Growing over the years has been one thing, but it's been embedded in our DNA from day one to be also green and to be challenging ourselves on everything that we buy, any investment that we do. Is it good for the environment, and is there, I suppose, a win-win situation, a payback? The evolution of the consumer, I suppose the potato consumption levels has reduced quite significantly over the last decade, and I suppose it's our job to see if we can increase potato consumption in Ireland, and I think convenience is definitely one way that we'll see how food waste and how convenience foods, how there is a match there. Finding solutions, spreading the word on consumer waste prevention. Origin Green, we've been a part of Origin Green since it came out a couple of years ago, and it's definitely been great in a sense that it formalises everything that we're currently doing, but it sets us objectives and challenges every day, and it makes us strive to be better at what we're doing. And lastly, just growing forward the future sustainability. So I suppose, where did it all start from? It is a family business. In the mid-70s, about 4 decades ago, my dad started growing potatoes in the fields just adjoining to our home house. He began selling potatoes into local shops in the northeast area, very simply. And then following that, he got some army barrack contracts, hotels, and then finally into the retail sector some years later. Himself and my mother incorporated Meade Potato Company in 1982, and we now have 240 people working for us at the plant in County Meade. So this is the current site that you're looking at. The original store is circled, and the whole top section, I suppose, is all the potato division. Down to the right hand side there is the fruit and vegetable section, and the narrow road that you can see on the edge of this PowerPoint slide is, I suppose that was unfortunately our network of all the heavy lorries going up and down. It was the main entrance for a number of years, right up until 2010, when we actually developed our own, built and constructed our own private road, and that was in itself was a big time for the company. So potatoes is in our name, but as I say to you, it was a natural progression. We've had some very good years in potatoes, and there's been some very bad years in potatoes by its nature. So in 2001, we diversified and went into vegetables, particularly into carrots, turnips, and we also supply cauliflower, cabbage and many other ranges to the retailers. In 2003 then, we went into the fruit aspect, and I suppose that was the opening gateway for us in terms of the retailers, because rather than dealing with 50 different suppliers, you can deal with one supplier who can offer the full fresh produce range under one roof, and that was a big, I suppose, turning point for us as a company. I mentioned the road and the gateway. This is the construction of it back in 2010, and as I say, that was definitely an opening network for us in terms of business. 2014, this is, I suppose, a quick snapshot of the family. To the left there is Patrick, my older brother. He heads the vegetable, salads and organic division. And to the right is my younger brother, Philip. He's in the potato division. I, for my sins, actually started out working part-time with the company, but went on to college and did accountancy. So I've been working in accountancy and tax roles for about 10 years before I joined the company in 2014. So for me, it was great to go back into the company with the learnings that I've learned and let the guys do what they do best, which is growing, farming and trading. My role is business operations manager, so I would look after the marketing, IT, communications, accounts, administration, and indeed I have a committee working on sustainability ever since we've started there a number of years ago. So when we sat down a good few years ago and said, like, what is our company about? What do we take into account when we're making business decisions? And there was just four key aspects that always it came back to, and it was teamwork. We know that people matter and that team thinking and teamwork make a real difference. So for us, our staff team, our network of growers, the community and of course our customers, our aim is consistently deliver best-in-class excellence in all our product lines on a daily basis. In terms of innovation, sometimes it's kind of hard to be innovative in a fresh produce aspect. You know, it is the product, but it all boils back to product service or product fit innovation in terms of varieties or packaging or range. Regarding engagement, every business relies on its relationships with its customers, and we are always looking at a way to strengthen our relationship with who we do business with. But the last word has always been there, and it's very fitting to today's sustainability agenda, and it's about responsibility. We have a responsibility to our customers, the community, our team and the environment to grow, source, ship, sell and distribute quality and safe produce for the end user to enjoy. So they're the key aspects of what we're about, and I think the mission statement sums it up. It's about being Ireland's leading grower, packer and distributor of fresh produce to the retail sector, and we wish to develop and expand our business in a sustainable way through our team's dedication, innovation and commitment. Our passion is to promote homegrown produce, healthy eating and the knowledge that we deliver only the best quality produce to our customers. So in terms of the services that we provide to our customers, and this is probably a good aspect in the fact that we have full control over a number of product lines, because from the field to the fork, especially in terms of potatoes and carrots, that is our expertise, that's what we grow, that's from the farm gate all the way out to the retailer. So we have full control over that process, and that's really the areas that we really home in on when we talk about sustainability, the entire supply chain process. We're also packers and we're also distributors, and I'll talk about distribution, but where we source our produce is very important that we source from Irish first and foremost. But as we're in the fruit game, a lot of produce cannot be grown in Ireland due to climate, due to seasonality and weather conditions, so we do obviously have to import an element, so we're always looking at carbon footprint too. The divisions I mentioned, there are 4 key divisions, but I suppose at the end of the day our speciality is all fresh produce. It's our passion, it's our grassroots, it's our expertise and experience, and it extends across all major categories. The last one there that's up here is organics, and that is definitely a growing market. We've seen over the years, in particular with the Celtic Tiger, the demand for organic produce really went through the roof. It subsided a little bit when the bust came in, but we can see our sales are creeping up and up again in that area, and it definitely links with sustainability, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So when we talk about growing and greening the facility, we literally mean that every single investment decision with Meade Potato Company over the last number of years always comes down to what are we doing, what is the carbon footprint, what's the effects on the environment, and it does boil back to sometimes money. You know, how much is this going to cost if we go this route, and what is the benefits actually? Is there an added benefit for everybody involved? So I'll start off with some of the, and again, these are very simple measures that are taken that, you know, do make a difference, and some are monetary and some are not. So if we look just at the energy aspects of the company, you can see there that the skylights, something very simple in our older buildings, it's all about just natural light, and within immediately the morale within our company and our staff working with natural light as opposed to being closed off and not being able to see if it's sunny outside or raining or anything like that. Again, very simple features. In terms of occupancy sensors, if there's no person in a room, there is no electricity on. It's very, very simple. In all of our offices, hallways, toilets, you name it, if there's nobody in the room, there is no electricity going on. In terms of the inverters on our compressors and fridges, that actually reduces the energy usage by implementing them in all of our fridges. In terms of heat exchangers, we take the heat from the compressors on our fridges, and believe it or not, that is what heats up our water. In terms of updating energy efficient production equipment, it's all about how energy efficient that equipment is, and if we need to spend a little bit more initially, we know we'll get it back in the long term. In terms of the wind turbine, we've installed a 300 kilowatt wind turbine at our farm a couple of years ago, and we're working every year, I suppose, to raise the energy usage that it takes up. At the minute, it's about 30% it powers to the plant, and that automatically then links back to 30% of energy savings. So in one instance, there's an investment there initially, but then the payback always comes down the line. And lastly then, power factor correction. Again, simple stuff. It's just about electricity settings for each area of our plant, making sure that there's nothing being wasteful and we're being as economic as we possibly can. In terms of water then, we have a rainwater harvesting tanks surrounding the plant, but basically at the top of all of the buildings that you can see there, any rainwater that comes along, we store it here and we recycle the water. You can see just an example there of spraying off carrots. We use the water for many, many other avenues on the supply chain process, but again, it's a simple way of using the water and recycling it. In terms of raw material sourcing, we're looking at sound agricultural practices. So this is all about crop rotation, soil analysis, and doing our nutrient plans. But not just for us as on our farm, but also with a team of growers that we work with. Sourcing local whenever possible, I mentioned it briefly there, but it really is all about reducing carbon footprint if we can, reducing the emissions, and it also has a social sustainability advantage by supporting the people around you. We only work with approved growers, so the symbols down there is Board Bia and Global Gap. Board Bia is all our Irish growers, Global Gap would be our foreign growers, and again both of those standards all link into sustainability and would have sustainability practices. We ourselves are governed by BRC, which is British Retail Consortium, and again there's a sustainability aspect to that, and we've just obtained a double grade A status last week from that audit. In terms of other simple stuff, the hedgerows planted, it's good for the plant life, it's good for animal life. And then in terms of our packaging, we've reduced the packaging, so the packaging of our potatoes and fruit from 70 to 80 microns all the way down to 45 to 60. So that means that it's reduced the tonnage of plastic we use by about 20%, which in itself is very significant. So when we talk about the evolution of the consumer, years ago it was kind of all about fruit and veg, local merchants. Then we're into the superstores, the big stores. We're back onto online shopping now more than ever. And in some ways, the small local fruit and veg is coming back in with the bespoke fruit veg healthy meal deliveries is happening. But as that's happening, the actual consumer themselves is changing what they're buying. So if you have a look here, you'll see that this picture was taken a good number of years ago with my brother. He'll probably kill me, but anyway, he has a 25 kilo bag in his hands. This was taken, I think, about 20 years ago plus. It's gone down in size, 25 kilo bag, we're now down to 20, 15, 10 kilo, you're lucky if you see that on the market. 7.5 kilo is more the norm, and now we're talking about 2.5 kilos, and in some instances 500 grams for microwavable packs and so on. So you can see straight away the demand for potatoes has reduced, but also if you look at the packaging on the potatoes, it's fully covered there, most of them. Now you can see that there's a little bit of window space, and as we're going on, there's more and more window space. But if you look at the actual potato that's changed, you can see that the I suppose, unclean, dirty looking potato is now gone. People don't have the time to be, scrubbing a potato and standing over it for 40 minutes, peeling and scrubbing and so on. The potato that you see there on the right hand side is what is the norm now. It's totally washed, and I suppose it's more visible now if you see any imperfections on it. So that leads us to, I suppose, an issue with specs and what's acceptable out there now. And it could be just a blemish or a machine cut, but it's definitely more and more visible. So when we take in our potatoes from the farm, if you look at all the boxes there's 24 boxes on the left-hand side, and on the right I've marked out the X's that because of the nature of it being undersized or oversized or have blemishes on them, is actually not viable for the retail sector, and we must look at ways of coming up with alternative markets for the potatoes that no doubt taste fantastic but might look a little bit oddly shapen, or as some call them, wonky or perfectly imperfect and so on. So what does that mean for us, the growers and the farmer? You can see here straight away the value has disintegrated from a high value crop, if with 100% I suppose yield that you can have a market for, it's gone way, way, way down. And I suppose that leads us to say, where does the imperfect potatoes go from? What are the avenues? And these guys here probably have a field day, is the livestock, because a lot of it would actually go to stock feed. And I suppose we have to ask the question, if you're looking at zero food waste, is it the ideal initial solution? And it probably isn't. When I look at Jason Clay and what he spoke about, the middle part here, he says, globally we waste 30 to 40% of all food produced, or 1 of every 3 calories. And above it, it said that it's wastefulness everywhere in terms of the farmers, the producers, the retailers and the consumers alike. And this only actually leads to lost profits and higher prices for the consumers. So I think his last line sentence there, ensuring that enough resources are available to feed everyone will not be easy, but this in itself is a powerful incentive. And if we could eliminate waste, we would actually halve the amount of new food we need to produce by 2050. So what have we done to try and curb that? Here's some of our solutions on it. About 10-11 years ago, my dad contacted St Vincent de Paul, seeing that the potato was going to stock feed, and said, this is a crying shame. These potatoes are absolutely perfect and fine. They might look a little bit odd or imperfectly, they don't look so good, but they taste fine. St Vincent de Paul set up a project called Crosscare Community Food Bank, and that actually really is the backbone of a lot of where our produce goes now. We supply plenty of tonnes. I think it's about 2 tonnes a week for the last 10 years, which is quite a lot. But I suppose it comes from the Irish guilt of waste. Nobody likes to waste their food. And we wanted to make sure that good food was put to good use. So Crosscare is a fantastic organisation. We know that about 1 in 8 families are in food poverty at the minute. So I suppose it's great to see food surplus matched with food scarcity. In terms of processing, if you look at a visually impaired fruit and vegetable sent to us where superficial cuts and blemishes are removed, the processing angle is another excellent way of using the food. If you look at the food service or catering markets, they don't need to see the skin finished, they just want to make sure that the potato is good. So this led us to sending a lot to processors, so we said, why are we doing that? Let's do our own. So we set up a new prepared food division at Meade Potato Company, and this allows us to channel higher percentage of slightly imperfect produce to higher value markets. If you look at the new markets that we are working on at the minute, we have the food service and catering on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side we have a brand new product just about to launch in the retailers. It's a dual-purpose packaging that allows you to put that bag into the microwave for 7 minutes or indeed into the oven. And what does it mean? I'm busy myself, I'm a mother of two energetic 3-year-old twins, and getting the time to peel and prep is sometimes hard. So we have the saying there, no peel, no pots, no hassle. And again, it's another avenue where we can put excellent food to the consumer that they can really taste and enjoy. Spreading the word about what we do is we've done it through a lot of angles, but I suppose all it is raising awareness that this food is absolutely perfect. If I move on to feeding the 5,000, there was 5,000 people fed in Dublin in 2012 from food that was visually impaired but tasted absolutely delicious. So I think the point was proven on that. We featured in a couple of programmes, Ear to the Ground, Eco-Eye and Waste Watchers, all regarding raising the awareness of aiming for zero food waste as much as we can. In terms of the Food Cloud, we've worked with Food Cloud over a number of years, but they are fantastic. It links the retailer now to the food community food banks of the people that actually need it, and therefore you're reducing food waste all along the chain. So moving on just towards the end of it, we're talking about Origin Green, and as you know, when you source food and drink from Origin Green suppliers, you will know it's produced by people committed to sustainability. So Origin Green really formalises the process of what we currently do. It definitely challenges us to do more, but it really makes us focus in on the target areas such as raw material sourcing, energy, water and social sustainability. So it's an excellent framework that we're governed by, and we're happy to be governed by, because I think at the end of the day you set your objectives, you set your goals, and you kind of go out of your comfort zone, and it can't be a bad thing. In terms of working in collaboration with our growers and team of growers, we have done a sustainability aspect. It's just, I suppose, information to our growers that are probably doing a lot of it anyway, but it's again just giving them tips and hints, because this isn't a one-man show. This is all again along the supply chain, and we have to make sure that we get it right. So collaboration is hugely important. In terms of our social media and website, I get tips from it. Sometimes I do the shopping and I come home and all of a sudden the bin is full, and I might have these dreams of cooking all these lovely meals during the week, but it doesn't always happen. So I think the waste prevention awareness and all the tips that we've given, people are finding them excellent. In terms of storing stuff and how to store stuff, sometimes we just don't know, and it could be a simple thing as putting something in the fridge or not in the fridge could extend the lifeline of products. In terms of social sustainability, I've mentioned about the potato consumption in Ireland reducing, and National Potato Day was developed a number of years ago to raise it, and in the last year to 2 years there has actually been an increase in potato purchasing, because the myth out there that potatoes were fat is all gone. Any Unislim or Slimming World, all of them recommend potatoes. It's just what you put on them, virtually fat-free and so on. So social sustainability, what we do is raising the profile of potatoes, and we've done some walks and runs and so on to support it. The Good Spud is out and about. Rather than getting, I suppose, maybe some options at events, you have a healthy option, which is a baked potato with healthy toppings, and we also do sport sponsorships. So growing forward, it's all about maintaining zero food waste, looking at new products in fruit and veg. I definitely think it's on the convenience front, looking at new growing and harvesting practices, and also the entire gleaning process from the farm aspect of our business. I think this is really worth noting is the EU marketing standards loosening a little bit on labelling, where you don't physically have to put on the label what grade a produce may or may not be. So I think that opens the gates in a good way that, you know, in retailers it's not odd now to see, I think it's clever what they've done up there, the odd bunch they have, where, you know, it's about making sure that it tastes good even though it may have come from a waste element. It's all about recycling and making sure people can still eat it. So that's worth noting. The green and going green has definitely been acknowledged over the years, and in particular just recently the Pac-Man Awards. It's historic that a food company would actually take home the top prize of the evening, and we were well surprised about that but delighted at the same time. We've also up for various other awards throughout the years. So look, that's really it in a nutshell. I just want to thank you all very much for your time, and so to conclude, we are continuing to implement sustainable practices at the company and reap the rewards of what is, I think, a natural thing to do, and we'll keep challenging ourselves more and more and look forward to it with gusto with the challenge ahead. Thank you.